Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me for SurgeTrader Live. We have a very special guest today, an industry expert, Sam Poole of PropChoice. Sam, good morning, sir.
Thank you so much for having me, Corey. I really appreciate your time.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I know, good morning for me, but not so morning for you. Tell us where are you located?
Exactly. No, I'm in London. So I recently made the move from Los Angeles, the USA, to London. So a bit of a time difference, but it's been a month already. So we're over the jet lag at this stage. So it's
Sure.
4 p.m. here. So not too bad a time difference.
Awesome, awesome. And Sam, for those who don't know you or haven't visited your site before, although I'm sure anybody who's in this industry has seen you in shorts or on Instagram or on your website, tell us who you are and what do you do?
Well, I am a trader. I consider myself a very normal trader, kind of like anyone else, really, who was sort of looking to learn a bit more and do my own research, which is something that I champion myself. And that led to me creating a sort of a personal project as it started off, which was the creation of the PropChoice website. And then on from that led on to the creation of my YouTube channel, PropChoice, where I upload stuff that I was hunting for myself at the beginning of my journey, let's say, and just educational videos, useful insights in about trading and the prop trading world, and also unbiased reviews about prop firms and comparisons about prop firms, because like it's a minefield and it's only growing, it seems. And where do you start? And
Right.
I was looking to create a resource for other people, but then also for myself. I was doing all this research and this, I was learning, and I wanted to be able to share what I was learning along the way. And I'm very happy with where we're at the moment. The channel's it's still small, but it's continuing to grow, and it's been really fulfilling for me that people have been reaching out to me and telling me how helpful it's been to them. And so for that reason, yeah, it's fulfilling its purpose.
Awesome. That's great. You're absolutely right. A minefield nonetheless. This industry has kind of exploded in the last year or so, and from just a few core main players, some of those who aren't even with us anymore, to
Yes.
a very very broad field. So it's good for people to have, like you said, unbiased reviews and opinions, because there's so many people who want to get started, but they just don't know where to start. So can you give me or paint me a picture of kind of 2 years ago when you started this project to today? What's the landscape look like?
Well, it's quite incredible, where we're at now, and obviously, anyone who's for a second been involved will appreciate there's quite a lot of uncertainty, and I'll say flat out, a lot of the big players that perhaps myself would have recommended not so long ago are not with us anymore, and it's really forced, I think, everyone to really step back for a moment and kind of reevaluate where the industry is and what's ahead. And that goes for people at the top of the industry, people running prop firms themselves. And I think that's very important for anyone looking to get in, that you need to join a prop firm, I think, that kind of appreciates, all right, there's stuff going on, there's stuff happening. Nobody's bigger than the law, but here's how we're going to navigate these issues. And I think there are some great players who stand out in that regard. And I think there's red flags. I think in hindsight is 2020. We can all look back and say and pinpoint those red flags. And I think there's a lot to be learned from where things were. My forex funds is obviously the big one, but
Sure.
then since then, you can count plenty more that have come and gone, and I think we need to be wary. The prop trading itself it's an exciting prospect. It is a legitimate avenue to make significant money for people who wouldn't have been able to do so if they were left trading with their own capital. And that's the enticing thing. That's what drew me in the first place. But you've got to be able to separate the good players from the bad. Those good players are the ones who, and honestly, like SurgeTrader, legitimate people who have a legitimate business and legitimate opportunities for their traders. They're the ones who are going to be able to make this industry thrive, and they're the ones that we need to champion, because the bad players, let's say, they're the ones who threaten everyone. They threaten the
Sure,
prop firms, they
absolutely.
threaten the industry as a whole, and they threaten people looking to get into it because, it's a new space and the CFTC, various bodies are starting to crack down. And as we see with a lot of prop firms starting to pull out of the US, whether they're forced to or whether they think it's just in their best interest to do so, it's worrying in that regard. Now, of course, there are some great prop firms that are still trading in the US, and I think they're the ones who are committed to finding a way to navigate and serve those US traders, because so many traders, like a significant proportion of people looking to get into prop trading are in the US. And I think,
Right.
I can only speculate as to why one of the biggest players, there's plenty more reasons behind the scenes. But when we look at someone like the funded trader, why did they go out of business? I think there was a lot of other stuff that did not go well, I'm sure, behind the scenes, and some of that I documented in one of my recent videos. But the fact that a lot of their business was derived from the US, when let's say it hit the fan, it served as a catalyst, I think, to really push them off the edge. And I don't know if that answers the question so far,
Yeah,
but
no,
I think
absolutely. I mean,
because I
you're
don't think we're
100%
at the
right.
stage where there's an answer just yet.
Of course, and I'm sure more will come out on it as we go. But it's certainly an interesting time, right? So if you
Yes,
were to
very much so.
say,
And it's I think ultimately, thinking positively, I think it's for the best, because the prop firms that are going to remain are the ones who are resilient, the ones who are committed to ensuring compliance for the best interests of themselves and their traders, and those are the ones that, whatever, regardless of what framework and regulatory rules are imposed globally, they're the ones that are going to remain. And I think the proof will be in the pudding. We'll see which ones thrive and survive as things go on. But, they're around now, and those are the prop firms that, with a bit of research and due diligence, you can ensure that you're joining them now and that you're safe as a trader.
sure, all good advice for new traders or existing traders who are looking to jump into the prop space. So for me, working at Surge, I have a very clear understanding of what it is we do and how we're adapting. You're kind of across the board. I mean, you're dealing with prop firms from A to Z. How do you get your information? How do you collate all the data points? Do you have insiders? Who are you chatting with?
Well, I like to remain anonymous, and I like to, first off, I'll reach out to a firm. One of the biggest things that I champion is customer service and support, because I think that's one of the things that makes prop trading great. Whereas you don't have to be trading alone. You are potentially joining a community of fellow traders, a prop firm which shares your successes. And I think one of the biggest things that, a big thing that separates the good from the bad is customer support and resources. So when I'm identifying a prop firm, I'll reach out to them as a prospective customer. I do a customer service test. I identify how they're responding, how fast they're responding, what their responses are, the tone of voice, everything. Ultimately, I'm not going to, if they weren't nice to me, I'm not going to rate them poorly. But it does,
Sure,
I
sure,
take
yeah.
note of
I
that as
mean,
well.
it goes to company culture.
Well, exactly, yes. And I'll test their instant chat support. If they have phone support, I'll give them a call. And I'll ask questions, legitimate questions that I have on my own, but then also prospective questions that maybe someone else who's looking to join the firm might have. Recently, and I did a customer service test of about 50 different prop firms, and I emailed the same questions to each firm, and I rated their response time. And then it was also an education for me, because I wanted to see how these prop firms were dealing with what was going on at the time. And this was regulatory issues. This is ongoing, as you know, but
Sure,
at that
yeah, of
stage it was
course.
brand new. And I wanted to know how these now some prop firms gave me a promise and said, oh, we're totally fine. There's no problem at all. Everything's fine, 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 fine. And that to me it didn't answer my question. It didn't tell me what they were doing to ensure that everything was going to continue to be fine. And they rated poorly in my test. Other prop firms were very diligent in their responses. They acknowledged that there were potential issues. And they were upfront. And those were the ones that propelled me to want to review them also, because I felt they had something to offer. And if I get the feeling that a prop firm is not going to be good, I don't feel compelled to review them, because yes, I like to have I say I'm unbiased, and I am unbiased, but I'll have an affiliate link And I'll review them legitimately, and I'll be upfront about that. But it's in my interest that I review firms that I genuinely think will come out on the good side. Now, I have
Sure.
reviewed firms where that hasn't been the case, and I'll be upfront and I'll say it as it is. But yeah, and it's exciting to me to find a new firm that I think could promise to be the next big thing.
Let me ask you a question about that. One thing you just mentioned is, reviewing a firm with all the good intentions, and then, a few weeks, few months later, they're gone. How do you deal with that from a reputation standpoint? I've talked to many traders and influencers who that's a very large concern of theirs. They're becoming more, or I should say, less likely to put their name behind a product
Yeah.
because these firms are leaving so quickly.
Well, it is something that I'm very cautious about, and more so lately. And probably from past experience, because I have reviewed firms which I gave my legitimate opinion on them at the time, and I did like some ranking views where one of the firms I ranked. And I'll be happy to say which one that was. I ranked them for trust and transparency, and it was, I think, at that time they were legitimately trusted and transparent, and there was nothing at that time that I said that it was incorrect. But as things change within this industry, that's no longer the case at all. The firm has since gone dark, and the writing was on the wall for some time. And I think it forced me to step back. I mean, firstly, for my audience, the important thing is to address that and to acknowledge that, and to maybe step back, and as myself as a creator, to look at how I might have been able to identify that at the time, to find out, was I wrong at the time in the opinion that I gave? And I did that. I evaluated the information that I was relying on. And at that time, I don't believe I was wrong. But there were events that preceded or came after that, I should say, where sadly their reputation did not stick. They didn't, and that is something that is always going to be a possibility.
Sure.
The top
Yeah.
prop firm today, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And this is why, with due diligence, you can at least make an informed decision and assumption as to where they're going to go. That you can see their trajectory and, be able to decide, okay, I think they're on the right track. And usually that's the case, but there's always going to be something that can happen. It could be a regulatory something or a blip along the way, something internal, a legal battle. And when we look back at, let's say, the firm that's in my mind, there were certainly, I mean, all three of those things did happen. And that led to them being, no longer with us, let's say. And I think it's important to really stay up to date because, when I do let's say a top 10 video or a review, it's only relevant for, it can be.
Right, the moment.
It's pretty immediate. This is it. And
Yeah.
that's why I like to keep on the ball, look at where things are, keep in touch with prop firms, ask them what's new. If I'm rating someone for their customer service, I want to go back and I want to make sure that they continue that customer service. I will say that there was I won't name names, there was a prop
Sure, no.
firm that was great at customer service, immediate support, and they rated highly. They ticked all the right boxes. Come back after when I tried to evaluate them again, they'd grown so popular. They hadn't put the framework in place to facilitate the growth that they were experiencing. And their customer support it suffered as a result. And that's poor planning on their part.
Right.
Ultimately the goal is growth, and you've got to be able to see, put things in place to be able to facilitate that growth. Otherwise, what's the point?
Right, absolutely. We've seen that happen to many firms. They grow very quickly, and they reach a critical mass, and they end up falling apart. Like you said,
Exactly,
poor planning,
yes.
Insufficient capital. All of these
of
things
course,
come
yeah.
into factor. Market directionality is a big one. They catch a big swing in the market, and they end up with more payouts than they can manage, and they end up going under, which is a shame. One thing that we've always kind of thought in this industry was that because the way it grew so fast, that we would at one point see a lot of consolidation, right? So there's the firms that are either going to be poorly managed, like you said, regulatory, undercapitalization. For whatever reason, there's probably going to be a period of consolidation, which we might very well be in at the moment. What do you think the features are of the firms that are going to be able to sustain long term?
I do think capital is the deciding factor. being able to and you know, the red flags are there when problems seem to arise. And I never receive confirmed information, but I receive rumors, and those rumors that I receive, it prompts me to do a little further investigation. And you don't need to be a private investigator to see if there's lots of people complaining about delays in payments, and it's indicative of a bigger issue. And
Sure.
if we, as I say, hindsight, we look back at those firms that have collapsed. Go onto Twitter, look at their customer support, look at reviews on Trustpilot. The writing's on the wall very often. And I do think capital is the deciding factor ultimately. We're all in this to make a bit of money in the end of the day. The community aspect is nice, everything else, there's great bonuses, but if you can't pay people at the end of the day, you're not going to be around very often, for too much longer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So do you see consolidation coming? What do you think the industry looks like 3 months, 6 months, a year from now?
This is it. My thought and what I see is that yes, I do think consolidation is inevitable. I think there are going to be most likely regulatory guidelines which are imposed in the US for certain, and I think it's going to. Well, I think it already has. A lot of prop firms have decided to pause, as a lot of them would word, or pull out of the US. And those that are remaining, it remains to be seen if they might be prompted to do the same thing. Those that do remain are the ones who are going to have established the framework to be able to allow them to continue to operate. And I think those firms are going to, like the US is a huge market, obviously, but sure. Prop trading is global. They have global clients, and I think those are the firms that are going to survive. And I think, the ones that pull out, the funded trader being one that paused, and there's a lot of others that are likely probably not going to be around too much longer. Some of those that have additional issues that are added and only exacerbating everything. So I think yes, consolidation is inevitable, really.
Got it. Yeah, we tend to agree.
I honestly think that's a good thing, because
sure, absolutely.
It seems like there's a new prop firm every day, and
right.
That's not sustainable, I don't think. And there's too many bad actors who make a bad reputation for the industry, and they serve no purpose in the grand scheme. They're the ones that, the reason that maybe, let's say, overzealous regulatory guidelines may be imposed, it's the bad ones that are to be blamed for that. So they don't help anybody. So I say bring on consolidation.
Right. Yeah, we agree. And, you have to have a certain magnitude and a certain longevity to be able to withstand the bumps. It's not a straight line at all. There's a lot of fluctuation in the industry. Like you said, there's regulatory being imposed all the time. You have to be nimble, have to have a good legal team behind you, and make sure you're able to turn with those punches. How would you recommend a new trader, somebody who's maybe they've traded on their own before, maybe they're just getting interested in the prop space, how would you recommend they started their research, right? They don't know who to go with, and you don't want to give them a specific name, but you want them to learn on their own. Where should they start?
Yeah, well, I think firms that offer educational support are the best choice by far. Those that place an emphasis on responsible trading, the usual red flags. If somebody's promising the world and, sky high profits, profits always, a potential, but education comes before anything. And there's some great firms that really hone in on the importance of education. A prop firm I admire always says the difference between success and failure often lies in the educational support that's offered. And I really think that's true. I've done some reviews on the best firms for beginner traders and lists that I think are genuinely worth watching. I've another one coming up which is more catered to experienced traders. And there's some great prop firms that offer some really great opportunities to maximize profits. But for the beginner trader, those probably aren't the firms that I recommend. So have a look at honest trader reviews. Trustpilot is a gold mine of information, as you can see.
Sure.
You want to see consistency also, as I say, with payouts. If people aren't getting paid out, there's bigger red flags there. You don't want to be giving your money away to a firm that could have some underlying problems, so that, you won't even be able to complete your challenge. And support. Discord is a brilliant resource, and some great communities that you can join to not only be educated by the firm and the resources they provide, but also ask questions to fellow traders. Find a firm where you can rise with other people. Some great prop firms offer buddies that you can trade together and support each other, asking questions. And a firm that's great and that invites people asking questions. I've joined some prop firm Discord servers where no questions allowed. It's only our announcements and our promotions that can. What's the point of having a Discord server then? There's some great prop firms that really cultivate a community atmosphere, and I've covered some of them. I won't name them here. On my channel, I covered some of them, and they're genuinely enjoyable places to be. You'll meet friends there, but then also, people who can support you in your journey. And so honing back into the question. Transparent prop firms that really highlight the importance of education and give you the tools and resources to succeed. Everyone was a beginner at one stage, and if you see an experienced trader who's still trading with the same prop firm they were when they started day one, that's telling something. And there's some great firms that are just like that.
Awesome. We too have a great Discord community. We have some traders who have been with us since inception back in 2021. So we definitely agree there. What are some of the things you would tell new traders to run from? Maybe not outright, disrecommending a firm, but what should they be looking for outside of, the Trustpilot reviews, maybe as far as terms go?
Yeah, well, certainly hidden rules are a big one, and I recently did a video highlighting some of the hidden rules, and I always say, these rules aren't necessarily bad. But when they're not disclosed or they're seemingly hidden in the terms and conditions, those are the ones you want to be aware of, because often those are the firms that are looking for any excuse to deny a payout, and they'll arbitrarily impose certain rules that seemingly are made up on the spot, or maybe rules that are a little bit more interpretive, which are the worst types, so that they have the upper hand at all times, so that they'll be able to legally say, oh, I'm sorry, no, you broke this rule. And you say, how? So you want to be with the firms that acknowledge that there are rules, and there are because those rules are necessary to promote sustainable and ultimately, hopefully, profitable trading, and protect both you and the prop firm, but they need to be upfront about it. And the second thing I'd say is also finding a firm that you need to know who the CEO is. You need to know who the leadership is. And also, can you talk to them? Are they accessible? I've seen so many prop firms, usually one that pop up, and who's running this show? You don't know. There's a Twitter page with
no phone number, no address, no face.
Exactly. Yeah. And if they're not disclosing who they are, that's a huge red flag to me. You don't have to dig too deep to find, this anonymous entity has about 5 other different prop firms under an umbrella company. If you don't know who's running the show, how can you trust them? There's nobody to trust. It all comes down to trust. And if you have any doubts whatsoever, message the prop firm. See what they have to say. Ask the question. A huge thing when you're starting out is, ask questions. You're learning. You want to find the best place for you to be as a trader. And you get plenty, the prop firm that I originally joined, I joined because I found their customer support was really attentive and responsive. I had some questions and they really guided me along the way. So if they're guiding you at that stage, that's a great sign. And that looks like it could be a great avenue for you to join and hopefully grow as a trader. If they're dismissing you, when you're literally coming at them saying, I want to give you money. Why do I want to give you money? Can you help me give you money? And you get some generic card. Look at our FAQ page. Is it? No, I'll move on, I think.
Sure, of course. All great advice. That's so true. We've had so many traders come to us and stay with us. Over time, we've kind of positioned ourselves. We're not the cheapest on the street by any means. We don't have the most frothy terms. We want to create a product that's realistic, that a trader can utilize for long term. We want to give them good customer service. We try to stay away from that pie in the sky stuff because to us that was always a big red flag. Offering rebates on your audition fee, 125% rebates, that tells us you're probably never going to pass, right? There's stuff imposed that's going to make it very challenging to pass. So we always like to say, look for terms that seem challenging because at the end of the day, trading is challenging, but realistic. And maybe not the cheapest. The cheapest seems to be the ones who fade to the evening very quickly.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
all good
I
advice.
think a huge red flag, and there's plenty. You can pull so many examples of that. It's the biggest indicator that they're probably don't have a sustainable business model, and it's operating like either as a Ponzi or a rug pull.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Cash grab. Since you've been in this for so long, tell me about the growth trajectory you've seen of new traders entering the prop space. At one point, was it just a trickle and now it's, Niagara Falls, or is it evened out?
I can only go from what I see, being that there's so many new prop firms coming up, and the growth of prop trading as search traffic that it obviously has. It's really it's exploded, the popularity, and it only seems to be continuing to rise, really, and it's become global in that way. You only have to join a Discord server to find, a lot of the prop firms have communities in Saudi Arabia. They got Spanish
Sure.
communities. They got everything else, and prop firms are now marketing themselves as with specific account types that cater to, let's say, Muslim traders with no swap fees and
Right.
stuff like that. So yeah, it really has. It's grown, and I hope it continues to grow for the better.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's so international. I mean, one of the thing I always like, I get to talk to people from all corners of the world. They're all looking for access to trading capital, and we offer a product that they can utilize. And it's nice to meet them and learn a little bit about what they're dealing with and the challenges. And we can't help everybody, unfortunately, but there's a ton of people that we can help, and we take a lot of pride in that and offering them good customer service. So that's an interesting perspective.
Yeah.
Going back to down the road and consolidation and what prop looks like. Have you heard of any regulatory changes, anything that's coming that traders or prop firms should be aware of?
And this hones in on the uncertainty at the moment. I've only heard rumors and rumblings, and I haven't heard anything solid. And I think this is why it's so important to ask those questions, to be so prepared, because we are in a period of uncertainty. I think the only I can't say it's a guarantee, but what it looks likely that there will be regulations. Personally, I don't know, and so a lot of prop firms will say the same thing. And until I think the fact that people are a lot of leading prop firms are starting to suspend services in certain areas or implement certain changes and prepare, which is what they should be doing, shows that either they know more than me, which is probably the case, or they know at least something's coming up. So I think that's the only thing that I can say.
Nice. Yeah, that's very true. One thing we've tried to stay ahead of with a very stacked legal team is anticipating what's coming. Right? We don't always see it ahead of time, but we're working with SEC lawyers and CTFC lawyers to really try to hone in on what's out there and what we could do to resolve it beforehand. So one of those things we're always trying to stay ahead of the game there, and I know a lot of the other firms are as well. And it's certainly an uphill battle because we don't know what's coming down the pike.
Yeah. Well, I think just to be prepared and in that way is it puts you ahead of the crowd, really. And you can see the prop firms that were ready when MetaTrader the incident happened, forcing a lot of people to play catch up. Where
Sure.
some had to go dark
That was a
for
big
a
one.
while. Some were ready to switch over almost immediately, and
Right.
And I think that says something.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Jumping away from the prop industry for a moment, share with us a little bit about your trading journey. How did it start? Where are you in your journey?
Yeah, well, originally, I suppose I could, if I'm tracking back to, let's say, year dot, I started trading. I started mining cryptocurrency back in. It must have been about, was it 2012, 2011? So and I was mining. I was buying when I could buy. I don't know why I started doing this. I had a spare computer and a graphics card that was sitting dormant, and I thought, oh, I can mine mystery money with this. I didn't
Sure.
think it would ever be worth anything, and I accumulated quite a bit at the time. Sadly, I made a fundamental error where I incorrectly backed up my wallet key. I did something stupid. I lost my wallet basically, and what it meant was I could look at the money, I could never withdraw it, and it was worth a significant amount at the time. I'm not completely mad because I know as soon as it was worth probably enough to buy anything, I probably would have cashed out because
Sure. Right. Right.
that's me. I never
It's just
thought
now
it
it's
was
just in there laughing at you, right?
exactly. It's now to remind me exactly. So from that, it kind of sparked an interest in trading and commodities and learning about how it all works. And I kind of dabbled. And I made a bit of money, I lost a bit of money. And it's what led, cutting the story short, it's what led me to up until recently, let's say, where I kept dabbling away, and then I thought I was a genius because everybody was a genius in whatever it was, 2020 or 2019, oh, you could throw money at the wall, you could buy any old stock, and it's like, oh, I know what I'm doing, yeah. And I bought into the hype, I bought into the craze, I bought into the fake gurus. And it's what led me to well, when things went wrong or when the market wasn't working with you, I think skill comes to and education and know-how in that way. It's when the market is down where you can really it separates the people who know what they're doing to the people who are just getting lucky. So I got lucky for a period of time, and I kind of knew what I was doing, but I kind of didn't. And I stepped back and I thought, all right, I need to educate myself. And that's
I'm
when I
sorry to
really
interrupt you, but
discovered
was this with a prop firm or this was just your personal
this was on
accounts at
my
the time?
own, trading
Got
just
it.
on my own, and I went from crypto to stocks because I thought, well, I've made and lost all this money on crypto. Now I'll do stocks because look, EVs are going up. Oh look, I bought loads of Neo shares. I'm a genius, and I as I say, I made a bit, I lost a bit, but when I lost a bit more. I stepped back and I realized, you know what, I don't really know what I'm doing. And that's when I started looking into the benefits of prop firms and discovered that there's a way to, well, without parting with significant capital myself, where I could potentially earn more money without having to take as big a financial risk, but also
Sure.
gain the benefits of partnering with a community and a firm that provides education, a firm that is ideally well invested in your success as a trader, and you share the wins. And I learned a lot through doing that. And my interest only grew from there to wanting to learn more, and that's what led me, as I said, to creating my YouTube channel as a way of educating myself and then sharing what I was learning along the way.
Awesome, awesome. One of the things you mentioned I like to talk about, or I like to hear your perspective on, is the gurus, the trading gurus. There's so many of them out there now. What's your opinion? How does somebody find somebody who's good? How do they identify, an honest winner?
It's very hard because honestly, there's not many people who aren't bought out these days, and I only realised that now because of creating a channel myself. Where I have had random people reach out to me and asking me to do X, Y, or Z, and I'll say no, absolutely. I'm absolutely open to partnering with people to in a view to creating educational content that's legitimate and highlighting something or that serves a purpose and is legitimately unbiased. But I'm not going to make a video for you saying you're great when I don't think you are, and the fact that my channel is honestly not a major channel, it kind of honed in and okay, if this is what I'm offered with where I am at, what are these big guys getting? Now there are some.
Oh, we're talking large sums here.
Well, this yeah, people offer, and it really was it was a learning experience for me that what people are willing to offer for social media content, and I think you really have to be for me anyway, I can only say what it's helped me to learn. It's really made me stop and really scrutinize anything that I'm being told. It's maybe a little bit less trustworthy. If you're watching a video I'm making, scrutinize it. You don't need to take my word for it. Look for other opinions as well. My opinion is just one. I can tell you it's unbiased and it's my genuine opinion, but absolutely look for other opinions as well. Certainly from people who are more knowledgeable and experienced than I am. I like to say, as the every trader, the person who's just learning.
Right.
And hopefully that's valuable to a lot of people, because I think a lot of people are in exactly the shoes I'm in. But there are a lot of, I think it's a genuine problem, actually, the financial gurus, certainly when it comes to stocks. And I think go back, there was so many people making huge money off just recommending any old stock, and huge YouTube personalities were born out of that. And kind of recently, there's some interesting cases where people have been discovered and caught out. And usually it's when their stock recommendations fall flat. And I don't know if that's the only indicator. Anyone can make a recommendation. It doesn't. But it's where it's coming from, and is it from a basis of actual knowledge and fundamental value? And I think we really need to scrutinize anyone who is giving financial advice. And I think advice and education they're different things. I think education should be based in facts and not opinions. And that's where I want to come from it for me. And that knowledge has really honed in, and it's instilled my own work ethic, and I hope people appreciate that.
Awesome. Great answer. On the same kind of ilk, what are your thoughts on the passing service and the EA providers? We see a lot of that online. People selling, prop firm passing services and different high-frequency trading EAs.
Well, I would steer clear of any high-frequency trading practices or EAs entirely. So I'd be very suspicious of anything like that. I have, the EA passing or the passing services, I have come across this, and it's something I want to explore more, because I've immediately dismissed them because I've not heard great things, and I'm not knowledgeable enough to really give an informed opinion. But personally, I've stayed clear of them. But it's actually something that's been on my radar to want to investigate more. And certainly, as far as I've made some videos on high frequency trading in the past, and given my opinions on them, where the majority, I don't think a legitimate prop firm is going to support high frequency trading.
Right, exactly. And same with passing services. It's one of those things where people are trying to cheat the system. At the end of the day, for the prop firm, we're looking for traders who are diligent traders, who have a sound risk management strategy, who are able to be profitable in the markets. And the EAs and the passing services, essentially, you're trying to buck the system. You're trying to get ahead, and it not only hurts the firm, it hurts all the customers down line, right? Who they want to come on. Now there's tighter rules, there's restrictions. So like you said, the one bad actor really puts some more impositions on traders who are looking to actually better themselves. So it's kind of a systemic problem, but we're dealing with it. And then of course, the scammers are always a couple steps ahead. So rules change as these things come to light.
Yes, which is another reason to kind of keep informed all the time, keep up to date, because things are changing all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Sam, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing with me. It's been a real pleasure.
So it's been amazing.
Your insights into the industry which is very refreshing for me. Like I said, I have a very deep view of here at Surge and kind of our periphery, but your wide landscape view is very interesting to take in. So thanks again, and I wish you all the best, and I hope to have you back on maybe in a month or two to kind of see where we are landscape-wise.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Corey. Great to chat to you.
You too, Sam. Have a great one. All the best.
You too. Thanks.
Bye-bye.